Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cinema 9 podcast. My name is Michael Govia. I'm here with my two co-hosts, as always, Eric Brancham, Travis Roy. This is Cinema 9 Pod at protonmail.com is how you contact us. Cinema 9 Pod on all the standard platforms. 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Do all that. Get all that out of the way so we can talk about cinema, movies, film, and our centerpiece, which is coming up later in the show, Scrooged, 1988 film about Christmas stuff. Travis, welcome in. Do you have the spirit in you? Are you feeling the intensity of the holiday season?
Dude, I have poured literally the largest glass of eggnog I've ever poured for myself in my life. I'm sitting down to do this. I'm ready. The spirit's in me. Move me.
Woohoo!
Can a man finish an entire glass that big of eggnog?
Over an hour and a half. Yeah.
Before we get to Scrooged.
You might need it. Trust me.
You're a big Christmas guy, aren't you?
You're going off, asshole.
Eric Brancham.
Michael?
Yeah, you're a big Christmas guy, aren't you?
The Christmas spirit is in my heart right now. I'm surrounded. It looks like Duncan's toy chest in my house right now. That's a Home Alone 2 reference. But yeah, I'm loving the Christmas season, and I'm excited to talk Scrooged.
Yay! Well, this was...
You look and sound excited, buddy.
Yeah, you really...
I'm also very nervous. Nervous about this conversation, but I'm excited.
Well, Scrooge is our choice. Eric chose it last week, so we will talk about Scrooge later on in the show. Of course, we'll do our quarantine viewing picks here momentarily, but we're just excited. I mean, it's the holiday season, so there's a lot of movies based around Christmas, less so around Hanukkah.
Lenny!
Is there a Hanukkah movie besides 8 Crazy Nights that comes to mind?
That's the only one I could think of.
I know.
Shit.
I feel like a dick. I mean, there's a lot of Jewish people who've made some great entertainment, but there's just not a lot. I can't think of like a signature Hanukkah film. It's like, oh, that's hilarious and I love it. It's just not. I'd never even seen 8 Crazy Nights. I had no interest in seeing it.
It's not very good. It's not terrible. I mean, but damn, man, someone needs to get on that. Come on, Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, all the ideas that have been done, everything that's been done, and there still isn't really like a textbook one. But hey, it's also not like a one-day event. It's supposedly it's 8 days, but
they made Home for Purim.
They did. Wow, that's a deep cut Jewish holiday right there. Okay, I'll give you that. But like Woody Allen seems like he would have done like a great Hanukkah movie in the 80s or something. That's how I see it. I think he missed an opportunity there, but because he did Hannah and Her Sisters, which was like Thanksgiving based. So, but I don't think he ever did a Christmas movie.
Oh, shit, I guess I need to watch Hannah and Her Sisters next to Thanksgiving. I like to try and watch these seasonally appropriate movies.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it when we did the Thanksgiving season. I had watched it and I forgot to mention it. Or I had started it and I didn't finish it, but I still wanted to say, hey, this is a Thanksgiving movie, but I forgot. So, Eric, Eric, what's your favorite Christmas movie of all time? Right now.
Home Alone. Home Alone's my favorite.
What?
Yeah. Why is that an issue? Everyone loves Home Alone.
It's
you got the whole. I mean, it warms the heart. You get laughs. It's still just as funny as it was 30 years ago. I don't see the big problem.
Wow, I can't. Do I have to answer this question too? Because I'm a little nervous now. I'm gonna pass Mike's muster.
You're speechless. You're speechless after hearing Home Alone, which is easily everyone's top 5 Christmas movie. I mean,
no, it's
confused.
not. It's not
I guarantee it is. Do a poll right now. Ask Facebook. Everyone will say Home Alone number 1.
It's not my top 5. I mean,
there it is. Not my top 5 either.
I'm thinking of my top 4 come immediately to my mind, and the 5th one. I mean, maybe I could make it that just for you, but
I'd appreciate it.
Oh, Travis, let's hear some of those. What's in that top 4?
Well, Scrooged absolutely holds up. I know we're supposed to save that till the end of the show, but there's no point in me, like as the show goes on, like you'll see, there's just no point in me pretending to have any pretense for suspense. So Scrooged is in my top 3, and then Elf number 1's got to be It's a Wonderful Life, and then The Ref is in there too. I don't know what number 5 is. I have to sit there and think about it. But those are my top 4.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I got The Family Man in there in the top 5.
Yeah, I could maybe put that number 5. That's a great movie.
I always confuse The Family Man and The Weather Man. I just like, which one is which? Do you guys know the difference?
Yeah, one's about a meteorologist, and one's like it's a modern day take on It's a Wonderful Life.
That's right, Michael.
Well, there's the difference. What do I know?
You can tell which one's which because one has weather in the title.
Yeah, that does help too. Weather versus family, two different distinct pieces of information.
What about you, Michael? Santa Claus the movie, number one?
Yeah, it was great to watch that, but I don't know if it's in the top 5. It was fun though, a lot of fun. Dudley Moore and like goofy, weird chemicals. Scrooged. I mean,
'80s Dr. Boys.
Yeah, I think we gave it away last week. Scrooged is like a holiday standard for me and Travis for sure. So this is just going to be an enjoyable time to kind of recount some of the great moments of Scrooge. And this is a rare episode where there won't be any suspense. Scrooge is always there. Christmas Vacation was forever, but I don't know. The last 10 years, it kind of faded away from me a little bit, but I got to give its due for where it was in the 90s and even into the 2000s for me. It was a big deal.
I feel the same way. I think I overwatched it. I haven't been inclined to take a look at the past few years, even though I know every word, but I think I overwatched it.
I think I would rather do Funny Farm, to be honest with you. If I had to sit down and choose between the two Christmas movies with Chevy Chase, I'd do Funny Farm. Which is not to say I don't love Christmas Vacation. I've just worn it out. Funny Farm I've seen maybe 10, 15, maybe 20, 30, maybe 50 times, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 times. But, not as many times not as many times.
So
I've seen.
In my heart.
What about this? No love for Jingle All the Way?
No.
On,
I almost watched it on Amazon Prime, but I was like, I work too hard to spend 2 hours on this.
Is that Sinbad or Tom Arnold?
Sinbad and Schwarzenegger and Tom Arnold, Chris Parnell.
Sinbad and Schwartz.
You guys, can we put this Die Hard as Christmas movie to bed, or can we do what constitutes a Christmas movie?
I mean, everyone's definitions their own,
Yeah, they're unique. If
One
it has
of the 4th of July
is
a Christmas movie.
So good.
I put anything that has like Christmas in the movie. It doesn't have to be Christmas themed. If there's a segment of the film that is based around Christmas, I'm going to throw it in there. And
it really depends, right? I mean, like Money Train, I think of as a decent action Christmas movie, because it takes place around Christmas. One of my favorite Christmas movies, or I don't know what you want to call it, but I haven't watched it yet, but I watch it every year, is While You Were Sleeping. It takes place in that magical week between Christmas and New Year's Eve. But it's not exactly a Christmas movie. It's a romance straight up. But,
first time I kissed a girl was to that movie in the theater, 1995. Like a real kiss.
That's tender.
A French kiss.
Were you staring at Peter Gallagher's eyebrows while you made your move?
I was like, woo, I am feeling hot.
Admiring Bill Pullman's denim jacket.
Oh, God. Who is that? Who's more boring than Bill Pullman? But I liked him. I like
Peter Gallagher.
He's a pretty plain guy.
Peter Gallagher in his peacoat. That's who.
Oh, here you go. Steve says that Jeb Stewart went on record that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Sorry, haters.
Jeb Stewart, like the Civil War general?
I don't know.
Steve. I believe President Obama recently made that announcement last week, too. Out of control.
For what it's worth, I mean, the man himself, Bruce Willis, says it's not a Christmas movie. He says it's a Bruce Willis movie, but it's clearly a Christmas movie. It's out of your hands, Bruce.
That doesn't surprise. I can totally see Bruce comparing himself to Jesus Christ. But, I mean, Batman Returns, I'd have to say, if we're going with these rules, I mean, it's Christmas heavy and also one of my favorite movies.
Jeb Stewart is the screenwriter. Thank you, Steve Paulo. I didn't know that. So there you go. Steve, screenwriter, says it's a Christmas movie. Well, then, To me, I always considered Silver Linings Playbook a Christmas movie because it really ends with the Christmas being like the last 45 minutes or half hour of the film, and it's really well done. So that, to me, is a Christmas film.
I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't put this out there. In my heart, a Christmas movie the central theme has to be, love, being around family and celebrating the family. It can't just be like, hey, it's an action movie and there's a Christmas tree in the background. Sorry, I can't go there.
Well, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That's why we do this show, so you can share your opinion. It's cool, man. But to me, Just Friends is a great Christmas movie.
Oh, yeah. It's a great Christmas movie. It's
in my top 5.
Funny.
Actually, so,
I know you love that one.
I love Just Friends, and it's certainly, he comes home for Christmas inadvertently, but they're on a trip. So even there, it qualifies under Eric's kind of, is someone's laundry running right now? Is someone cooking popcorn?
I don't know. I wonder who it could possibly be.
Not me. I'm on mute right now.
I got to tell you, Steve Paulo is incredibly passionate about this. He clearly believes. In fact, that it's a Christmas film, Steve. Well, you're entitled to your opinion as well, and we appreciate you listening and watching the show. Thank you, Steven.
He raises a good point. I mean, ultimately, Die Hard is about family.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
dogs. Are those dogs that we're hearing? What is
It's wrapping paper.
Oh,
I'll
it's
go.
a Christmas season. That's perfect that we have wrapping paper. This is a special Tuesday edition that we release. We normally do our show on Thursday, so thanks for our lone viewer, Steve Paulo. We love you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, if you were right, I'd agree with you. But welcome to the show, and thanks for listening.
Also, shout out to Russell for being the first listener to make a meme for us on the Twitter machine. That was very generous. If you're listening, Russell, we appreciate you.
Is that true? That's our first meme from a listener. How about that?
From a listener, yeah.
Wow. Russell Withers, thanks, buddy. Yeah, he went deep. He got more and more excited about every episode he saw in our archives, which you can listen to anytime you want to on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever your podcast platform is. We got 38 of them after this one's in the can. And that's you know what? It's a pretty good year, guys. I think we've all done a fine job. I want to give you guys all tribute. I want to say thank you. And I want to show you something real quick. Nobody's watching, but this is really just for us. So my dad dropped this off. He did a socially distanced like Christmas bag.
Yeah.
You know, it just had a couple cards in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you guys can read this.
Found this and thought you should have it. It's a photograph or a Christmas. Is that a Christmas card?
It's this, our dear departed friend.
I thought that was it. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's beautiful.
That's
this
good
is
to
our
have.
dear friend Brandon Eugene Harvey, who died in 2001 in a car accident. We miss him terribly. And my dad gave it. He said, "This is like so cool. I was never expecting this. It blew my mind. Totally blew my mind."
I'm glad he held on to it. That's great.
Yeah. I couldn't believe he had it.
Beautiful.
It was, and I don't think I had mine anymore. So it was like, I was like, oh, great, cool. I got this. And it was a really nice Christmas moment. This is a Christmas show. So I wanted to say, thanks, Dad. I don't know if you even listen to the show, but very cool of you. So
very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. And on that note, let's move into quarantine viewing picks. It's that time. And I know that, hey, you guys both off now, or did you guys go on?
Oh, yeah.
I know Eric's
I have to do shit for like 2 weeks. I've got a lot of movies. I'm excited.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're doing we're doing this a day earlier than usual, but I've actually probably watched about the same amount of movies since I'm on break. I squeezed a couple in there.
Is it 2 days earlier, or you just consider Wednesday the day?
I mean, it's a day early. I mean, we usually record on Thursdays. Today's Wednesday, right? Isn't that
it's
Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
I've completely lost track of time. I'm doing vacation right. I totally thought it was Wednesday all day long. All day long.
Well, on that note, with only 5 days notice, what do you got, Travis?
This is such a good sign. I'm very happy to hear this about myself. Well, I've watched some movies. I watched Let Them All Talk, which I reviewed on our Instagram, the new Steven Soderbergh film with Meryl Streep. I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Eric, did you watch it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Let's talk real quick about it. What'd you think?
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I really liked it. I'll probably see it again pretty soon. But I mean, that cast was fucking amazing. I loved all those guys. Like, I loved how clearly it's August Wilson play, but it smoothed the transition from play to screen was perfect for me. Right up there with like Glengarry and some of the more better adaptations. I love those fucking performances were unbelievable. Chadwick Boseman deserves every award dumped on his front lawn right now.
Chadwick Boseman, I think we can probably count on a posthumous Best Supporting Actor is my prediction.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah, that's my guess. Viola Davis probably Best Supporting or Best Actress nom.
Does she regret doing this movie?
We don't know yet. We'll have to give it 10 years. We'll check back. I have a big old man crush on on Coleman Domingo, and I'm really happy to see him in it too. He's got to play Cutler, the trombone player, and so I was really happy to have him in it too. He was like, I watched like seasons upon seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, even though it was terrible. I just knew the show was terrible the whole time, but he was so good on it that I just kept watching it for him. He's a really good actor, so I was happy to see him doing some more. So that's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
I watched Last Christmas from last year, the Emma Thompson co-written Paul Feige, directed movie with what's her name, Emilia Clarke. I hope you. Go in loving George Michael, or you're gonna have go in loving George Michael. There's a lot of George Michael. It's based on the song Last Christmas, and you might ask yourself, how do you base a movie on the not a narrative song? But they did.
Yeah.
I watched another Christmas horror movie called Children. It's basically the same plot as a movie that came out a couple years ago called Cooties, but this came out in 2008, which is you're dealing with some sort of sudden thing where the children are trying to kill their family, and it's like these two families are together on Christmas Eve, and you end up with the whole question is how do you how do you protect yourself from the only person you're most likely to try and protect. You're not gonna, it's like, how do you kill your own children to save yourself? It's a pretty intense movie. It was pretty good. I watched Primal, Eric. I believe you reviewed that. Laughably bad within minutes. I mean, just like within minutes, I'm laughing at how bad it is.
There's no way you can turn it off, though. I mean,
I watched Alpha today from 2018 with Bodie Kit McPhee or Fee Kit McBodie or Cody Fick McMitt. I compare it to Apocalypto. I mean, it takes place 20,000 years ago. There's no English language in the movie. It's almost, I was in the mood for something really like visual, like a spectacle that didn't have like a dumb action like take. So it really hit everything I was looking for. And by the end of the movie, I was like on the floor with both my dogs, like, emotional.
So that was the Hughes brothers. Finally, when they came back to direct, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was.
It's very much worth seeing. I mean, I thought it looked cheesy. I thought I really just kind of picked it on a whim today. I didn't think it would be one I would even give the time of day to, but I ended up being pretty happy I watched it. But my big recommendation, the big reveal for me this week, I went back and looked. Before this podcast started, all I ever watched, especially in theaters, all I watched was movies I've seen a million times before, and in particular, the Marvel movies, the MCU. I have not watched, since we started this podcast, I watched Black Panther after Chadwick Boseman died, and that's the only Marvel movie that I watched all year, which is amazing to me. Like, it's just really weird to me. So I'm like, I got to get back into it. I almost surprised myself with which Marvel movie I decided to plunge back into. And I watched 2019's Captain Marvel, and that movie is just so fucking good. I don't care what anybody says. Every time I watch that movie, I get more from it. I think that the directors were robbed, and I mean, I think that whoever does it next, what's her name, she's going to do a good job. I think they did a fantastic job with that movie. I mean, every time I watch that movie, I'm moved in new ways, and I think it's a really good film.
Though, to me,
I mean, not to you. You and I have discussed it before. I mean,
you praised it on the show when I watched it about a month ago. So it
was a bit of a surprise to me.
You go back to it. What I mean. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's quick, like because usually, there's a few ones that I watch over and over again. I've watched Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier over and over and over. There's a few
Not
of them.
The first Avenger.
That's my least favorite.
That would have surprised me if you said that.
That's my least favorite of the bunch. But Captain Marvel has quickly become, I think, one of my top tier favorite Marvel movies. And I'm just laughing and crying. And I put it in I put it in thinking that I'd watch like half of it and maybe finish it the next day or something. But no, I stayed up late and watched the whole thing. So good.
Wow. Well, I'm not surprised, but I'm happy for you. It's a great film. Really enjoyed it. And I'm really feeling bad for Bowden and Fleck. They got fucked. And it's not cool. I love Mississippi Grind. Anybody knows me knows that. So I'm a Bowden and Fleck dude. Half Nelson, so on. Whatever. Okay. I'm pissed. Eric Branstrom, you've been on the hot seat, sitting on that ass, ripping farts, eating food, watching films. What do you got for us?
I got a few recommendations. You remember the other day I was like, oh, guys, 1992, I can't believe I missed this film. I started watching it. The first half hour is fucking incredible. And then from there, it gets not very good. And then it gets bad. And then finally, it's intolerable. And I had to turn it off. So The Crying Game. I'd never seen this Neil Jordan picture from 1992 starring Stephen Ray.
Kill your own kind.
There it is. Have you guys seen this movie before?
I have actually never saw it, but I remember the buzz about it when we were teenagers. It was a huge deal.
Yeah, the buzz.
I've not seen it. I've not seen it since then, but I thought it was a pretty powerful movie.
That first half hour with Forrest Whitaker, there's this hostage situation, is fucking awesome. And then as soon as the what is revealed, it just becomes like really boring melodrama. But yeah, I was a little let down.
I think you may have missed the point of the movie. I mean, to me, the movie's not about a kidnapping situation. It's about how love can transcend anything and everything.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would take what you just said and make it good cinematically, but they didn't. That part was really boring, the way they told that.
I'll talk to Neil.
Okay, we'll consult Neil and Stephen Ray.
Unkind.
I took a chance on this movie, Wade in the Water. It's like tiny, independent, like 10-person crew. Like the main character is like this, like 400-pound, like bearded, like loser who like wears sandals everywhere, pounds like regular Coke straight out of the 2-liter bottle. Anyway, he gets accidentally mailed a disc that contains, let's just say, unsavory and illegal images. And he doesn't know what to do with it. He distrusts authorities, so he decides to take matter into his own hands and like find the intended recipient and take out like some retribution. It's kind of like Taxi Driver if it starred like the gross guy that you see at 7-Eleven. Pretty solid effort. Wade in the Water's on Amazon Prime. Last night I saw Robin Williams' final film, Boulevard. You seen this?
I have.
It's fucking good.
Powerful.
Quiet, tender character study. It's about this gay man who's been in a closet his whole life, and things begin to unravel when he decides to pick up a street hustler, Bob Odenkirk. Nice, thoughtful little drama that I really enjoyed.
Hang on, Bob Odenkirk is not the street hustler.
No. Robin Williams is.
Wait,
Bob Odenkirk's like the friend who's like, "Hey, you all right?"
He's the friend. I can't remember who played. It's a young
Kathy
man.
Baker's in this too. I got some
Kathy Baker. Yeah,
like the wife. Who plays the young man? I
don't know, but he kind of reminded me of a young Sam Rockwell. I thought he did a good job.
Roberto McGuire, Giles Matthey.
Good actor. My main recommendation of the week, probably the past few weeks, is 2015, the end of the tour with Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel. It's so fucking good.
Of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there for anything with Jason Segel. Let me put that up.
I'm there for anything with Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I'm there for him too. I mean, honestly, but you put the two of them together and like you're in business.
And it's about David Foster Wallace. It's fucking fantastic. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I've watched the movie many times.
I'm telling you right now, I loved it. That was the best performance of 2015. I'm like, well, who the hell was even nominated? Like Matt Damon for The Martian and like fucking like Trumbo and this is such a fucking good performance. And like when it comes to biopics, Mike, this is like the kind of biopic you probably the kind, gentle Sunday afternoon biopic, glimpse in the life of. I fucking loved it so much. I don't know that much about David Foster Wallace. He's been accused of being this like inaccessible writer. But they really paint him as just
more than that,
insecure, like dude that he was. But and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've read Infinite Jest because I haven't. But fucking awesome movie, top recommendation.
Yeah, I have no interest in. Yeah, I agree, Travis. I don't have a desire to read that mammoth fucking nightmare. No thanks. But I give him credit for doing it. I mean, I couldn't do it.
Elton John.
Well, they make an excellent point. I mean, I love it. He says no one writes this 1,000-page novel and doesn't expect to be like noticed or critiqued or called to the carpet. So you can act like this regular man all you want to. I just love the interplay between the two. The script was fucking fantastic. Yeah.
Both of them have great commentary on both of their lives, and I think that's what's so interesting about it is it doesn't drag, even what it could drag in parts. If I find myself being more curious every time I watch it, I agree. Great call. I'm glad you brought it up because I actually. I really think about throwing it out. It's been 5 years, but it would have been one of our more recent choices. Anyways, not going to happen right now. I apologize.
That's it, Michael. How about you?
What are you watching, bud?
Okay. Well, bud. Sorry, bud. Okay, so let's see here. I did finish.
Bud.
No. I did finish Hannah and Her Sisters, which I had started around Thanksgiving, but I didn't finish it. So I finished it. Never seen it, and it's classic. Good stuff. Michael Caine, fantastic.
Diane Wiest. It's my favorite Woody Allen film. I don't know what your list looks like, but that's my absolute favorite. Easily.
Up the top. Yeah, I also love
one movie or one movie list, right?
I do love Midnight in Paris a ton too.
So I love Manhattan.
I got to see Manhattan. That's on the list. I still got to see Manhattan. So this is part of my Woody Allen going back in time and seeing some. I have seen some, but not all of his films. I did see that one in 2015 or 16 with Eisenberg, our buddy Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart, I think it was. So We saw the
was that? Oh wait, no. I
It was
forgot.
about like it's set in the 30s and like it was okay. I saw it in the theater. Anyway,
Dixieland was the soundtrack. What do you know?
It was Cafe Society, wasn't it?
Were there placards between scenes?
A Woody Allen movie with Cole Porter in it?
Wow. Did it take place in New York, or am I way off base here?
Yeah, that's good.
Was the main character neurotic, or am I thinking of something else?
Was there sex involved? Was someone cheating on someone? All right.
Was there an age gap romance?
Maybe he's not so great after all. Anyways, I'm sure we should probably do a Woody Allen movie at some point. We will. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then I did something I'd never done before, and I'm really glad I got to finally do it. I did the Before Sunrise trilogy, all 3 films. I blew them all out in a row, and these are great. I don't know if the third one's that great, but they're all pretty good. They're great, good, and good. So I liked all 3. I say that clearly, and I would recommend
on one hand, I kind of envy that you could sit down and watch them. On the other hand, I'm really glad that I watched them all as they came out and was able to like live with these characters throughout 20 years of my life or whatever. What a concept.
Yeah, I would say the opposite to that. Yeah, I wish I could have, experienced them in the times they were made. But I loved it, and especially the first one because the dialogue is just it's such a true kind of relationship. If you rom-coms, like this is what it's really like, or at least a lot more realistic to me. And I think that's probably why people love it.
That's why the third one is actually my favorite, is in terms of realism.
Yeah, I don't hate the third one at all. I like it. It's good. It's really good. I'm still comprehending. Yeah. So. Yeah. But I like all 3. I recommend you watch all 3 if you've never seen them, or if you watched one, or if for some reason you saw the second one and didn't see the first.
If perhaps you watched First Reformed and thought, what other good movies has Ethan Hawke done?
We could end the year without getting a First Reform in, right? I started watching a movie I'd never seen, a Jack Nicholson movie, which is rare to find one I haven't seen, and I actually stopped it because I just wasn't in the mood.
Was it Heartburn?
Is it Going West?
No, it's close. Very close. Very close.
Trouble.
Ironweed.
Oh, I fucking love Ironweed.
Yeah, I gotta finish.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, it was like 25 half hour, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not in the mood for this, and that's doesn't happen very often. I've powered through everything, but I like the concept, like Jack Nicholson, 1930s, the Depression era, and they're like struggling, and weird shit happens. So
did you like Frank Whaley as the scab?
Frank Whaley, you can't go wrong, right? Okay, so
love me some Whaley.
We all love Whaley on the show, don't we? I watched Ernest Goes to Camp. I hadn't seen Ernest Goes to Camp in 30 years. And it was so great. God, I love it. So great. It made me feel good. I love Jim Varney. I think he what happened to characters like this where like guys were just do we still have characters like this?
Yeah, Medea probably is unfortunately.
That's what I thought of.
Good point.
Great point. That's exactly what I thought of, Travis. So that must be it then. And then like Larry the Cable Guy, maybe it was something like that. Even though I didn't know it, so.
Right.
Anyways, Jim Varney, rest in power, buddy. All right, then I watched State and Maine. I did another Mammoth film. I had seen it once. It'd been a while, so it was good to watch that again. I watched The Rules Don't Apply, the Warren Beatty attempt to finally do the Howard Hughes film from 2016.
Wow.
How was it?
A loaded cast. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm Howard Hughes interested, so I'll admit that freely. It makes me a little biased.
Yeah.
But The Aviator is vastly superior.
Oh my God, we got to do it someday.
There's no debate for me there. But
how was old Warren?
He wasn't bad. I mean, he wasn't like decrepit and clueless. And I mean, Chad, is it Chad Gibbons that loathes Warren Beatty? Was that who it was?
It is our good friend Chad Gibbons.
All three of us are kind of admitted to saying that the dude is pretty dry.
He's not great.
No, but I really like Warren Beatty. I do.
Yeah, you're the mostest.
Okay.
If were he not Hollywood royalty, did he not come from the family that he comes from? That this guy would be selling cars.
That is an interesting kind of deep dive. Any rate, he does a pretty good job playing the Hughes thing, and there's a different take on it than what Leo did. So he's all right. But Alden, what's his face? Alden Ehrenreich. What's his name? Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich.
Yeah. The guy who played Solo. He's one of the main characters.
I like that Lily Collins too.
Yeah, Lily Collins.
She's a good up and comer.
She does a great job in this. And Candace Bergen, Matthew Broderick. I mean, there's all kinds of people in this movie. It's a deep Deep cast, not bad. Check it out. Not the greatest film, but if you're into Howard Hughes, you'll probably enjoy it. I know Travis said this movie's awful, but I finally had to watch it because I love Gary Shandling. So, what planet are you from?
What the fuck?
I had to watch it.
I wanted to love this movie. I even watched it like 2 or 3 times trying to make sure it's bad, and I still feel like it's bad
because it's
like so good people in it.
Or just not funny, or
it was just funny. It's just not funny. Just a bad premise. It just wasn't. It just didn't work. It's got good people in it, but it just didn't work for me. Did you enjoy it? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily.
I'm not going to shame you.
No, come on. You know me. I don't have guilty pleasures, but it was okay. It wasn't great though, but it wasn't god awful. I found myself being like, I'm kind of caring a little bit. I'm surprised, but I did find the opening. The opening is so cringeworthy, but he's trying to be cringeworthy too. So it's not like he's clueless in the writing here. I think.
Who's the bad guy? Isn't Ben Kingsley the bad guy?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, John Goodman in it.
Sometimes he really stoops.
He does. You're right. Kingsley definitely sleptwalked through this one. I wouldn't argue that at all. But what planet are you from? Year 2000. Mike Nichols said working with Shandling was god awful. It was a terrible experience. They both didn't like each other apparently. So
it shows in the movie. It comes across.
That is not a lie. I watched Little Children and I love this movie. I loved it.
God, it's been a while.
I want to strongly recommend Little Children. 2006. Kate Winslet, Patrick Wilson, Jennifer Connelly. It's what's his name? Noah Emmerich, or is it Toby? I always mix up Noah and Toby. Who's the actor? The guy from Truman Show.
Toby is the actor.
Toby Emmerich.
Toby Emmerich.
Didn't what's his name get nominated?
Jackie Earle Haley. It was his
first
movie.
I always want to say Haley Joel Osment. Jackie Earle Haley.
I didn't know it was his first movie in 13 years, but I wasn't really paying attention in the 90s to him either. So
put him on the map again, I guess.
It's got a ton of narration in it. This has a lot of narration. If you don't like narration, you'll hate this movie. But it's like a book. It does well. It's based on our buddy Tom Perrotta. Remember from wasn't he the Crow guy, or is that someone else? Am I mixing up another movie?
No, you're just thinking of the best narrator ever.
No, we did a Tom Perrotta movie earlier on this show. I can't remember which one he. We'll look it up anyway.
Jake Perrotta.
No, Tom Perrotta. I swear it's real. Okay, I watched She's Out of My League. Hilarious. I love it. Jay Baruchel. Beautiful movie. What's her name? Alice Eve. She's really funny in this film. It's from 2010. It's got TJ Miller. Really funny film. She's Out of My League. Guy who's insecure meets a super hot woman. See what happens. Great group of friends. Hi, Travis, have you seen this, Travis?
No.
I think you would really like this movie. I think this is good friendship thing going on here. Great crew of guys, and I dig it a lot. I know you do. I know you're into that. I watched Notes on a Scandal, which is great Kate Blanchett. Great Kate Blanchett film. And
I don't know if I ever watched that.
It's got Dame Judi Dench. It's Notes on a Scandal. It's about a teacher who gets into hot water in England. Kate Blanchett is a struggling woman with a special needs son who needs freedom. And take it from there. Judi Dench, fucking badass in this movie, for the record. So, and then finally, I watched a movie called The Upside of Anger. Anybody ever seen this?
Yeah, I passed on that one. How was it?
I feel like I may have watched it. What is it?
It's a Mike Binder film, Detroit based, very Michigan, Detroit heavily focused. Kevin Costner, Joan Allen, Kerry Russell.
Oh, yeah, I saw this movie. I think.
Yeah, I think you did, and it's got none other than baby Arthur
Penhollow
in this movie in multiple scenes. Kevin Costner is guess what? Kevin Costner is a retired baseball player. Believe it or not.
What
a fresh premise. And he's a retired Detroit Tiger living in like Bloomfield Hills or some shit, basically. And he does a baseball show at WRIF. WRIF is in this movie a lot. They're like in the studio. Mike Binder and him are like producer and he's the host. It's really weird. It's like Arthur Penhollow's in like 10 scenes.
Does he wear like the Hawaiian shirt and go, baby?
No, he never does the baby because it probably would have cost him too much money. He probably copyrighted some weird shit. But he does have a ponytail and he's in like 5 to 7 scenes. He only says one thing. 101 Detroit WRF. And he keeps it like low key. So.
Dude, Kevin Costner baseball movie. I'm there. Remember For Love of the Game? I'm a huge fan. You don't hear too much about it lately.
How many baseball characters has he actually played? I think we should do a list, and
At
that
least
should
3,
be like
right. Bull Durham, Field of Dreams.
Yep.
Whatever you just said. Is that it?
Love of the
That's
Game.
enough.
Outside of Anger.
enough.
That's at least 4.
Outside of Anger,
Yeah,
that's 4.
probably more.
That's
Tin
enough.
Cup. He was another athlete, I think. So,
Athlete,
anyways,
close enough. There's a ball involved.
Draft day.
Draft day's football. But yeah. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So
Postman.
yeah. Upside of Anger, if you ever find it online, check it out. I'd like to see what other people think, especially if you're a Michigan native. I think there's a lot of tie. There's a Mr. Stadium coin laundry T-shirt that Costner wears for like 7 minutes from Ann Arbor. I'm like, oh, I know that place, and it's like so blatant. It's like he's so blatantly trying to be Michigan in this film. It's kind of weird or over the top. But
Pandering.
anyways,
Don't like that.
A lot of-
That's Michiganders. Bishop Pandering. Doing some Bishop Pandering.
Mr. Pandering. That's a good one. Okay, Mr. Pandering it is. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, we are the Cinema 9 podcast, and we appreciate you listening. Those are our quarantine viewing picks. Are we doing a show next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're doing a show next week. I'll be
Your
choosing
pick.
a film. And then the week after that, our dear friend Brian Madison will make his Cinema Pod debut on January 7th with his yet-to-be-disclosed title, which we will be looking forward to start 2021 with a bang. And, of course, you can email the show about our picks, any questions, thoughts, concerns about films, memes you like, cinema9pod@protonmail.com. And we would love a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you could give us a Christmas gift, a 5-star rating on Apple Pods would be very, very welcome. Thank you so much for listening this year. I want everyone to say happy holidays to themselves. Everybody on the show should pat themselves on the back. I'm really proud of everybody. This is a good show, and I'm proud to do it with all of you guys. I really am. So let's cut the shit. Let's get into it. Does it hold up? It's time. Get your microphones ready, cocked and loaded. Scrooged, 1988, a film with Bill Murray, directed by the legendary Richard Donner. So many people in this film. This is a film that we already know is likely to hold up based on majority. But let's dive into it, Travis Roy. Take us back.
Oh, man.
First
This
time
is
viewing of Scrooged.
easily probably my favorite cinema memory. One of my favorite cinema memories. I saw it when it came out in November or December of 1988. And if you know my brother, if you ever heard my brother Judd laugh, when he gets going, it doesn't take much. It's just asthma attack. It's just coughing, just a coughing fit, which I guess I'll have one now. And this is the first I remember, being embarrassed of him and myself and our behavior, and because we were just like literally rolling in the aisles and rolling like on the floor. You know, we were little kids, but we were cackling with laughter through the whole movie. Just loved it, laughing. And here I am, 32 years later, still laughing at it.
That's amazing. I'm still trying to picture you guys rolling and laughing. I really want to.
It literally happened. I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out.
How about you, Eric? We don't know.
I'm laughing because Travis tells this sweet story about laughing and rolling in the aisles the first time he saw Scrooged. And I'm here to tell you that the first time I saw this, throughout the entire movie, I very vividly remember just being scared to death the entire time. I thought this was a horror movie for until I was like 13 years old. Like when the maitre d' catches on fire, I remember having like nightmares about fire for many years. Falling off a building, I was scared. Like there's so many instances in this movie that just scared me, and I think that's probably why I stayed away for several years.
There's something wrong with me. But I mean, like I was watching it last night, and it just starts with just like warfare, just like guns ablazing. Yeah. And I'm like, it looks like the beginning of Red Dawn. You know, I saw Red Dawn when I was a kid. I saw The Thing when I was a kid. I saw all this shit when I was a kid. I was unfazed.
Shooting up, he's like,
highway shooter.
International terrorism. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I didn't see this in the theater. We saw it on VHS, probably when I moved to Heartland, actually, because believe it or not, although we didn't always get along, and he is dead now, DiBiase was a huge fan of the film. Loved Scrooge.
Rest in peace.
Yes, he was a big Bill Murray fan, and he was a tremendous fan of Scrooge. So he started the tradition for me. I can't hide my roots. It started 1991 when I moved to Heartland, and we watched Scrooged every year. Scrooged and Christmas Vacation double feature, and I was kind of like Eric, even though I had seen RoboCop and shit like that already, like you, Travis. I was scared of this movie when I was first viewing it. The eyeball in the highball glass.
Yeah.
A lot of scary shit. The violence with Carol Kane. It's like, well,
Yeah.
like the frozen Herman frozen in the underground. I'm like, oh shit, this is like a dead body.
The creature, the little kids screaming in the rib cage. That part did get to me as a kid. But you were talking, Eric, about how you'd seen Sneakers and more than the two of us combined, etc. And like I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, a lot of people watched Back to the Future, for instance. Like I know you watched Back to the Future over and over and over again. This to me, Scrooge is simply not a Christmas movie. It doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. I watched it any time of the year over and over and over again for most of my life. It's just the last few years I've started reserving it for just the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I'm both nervous and excited to come at this like I am, which is going to be with a critical eye, because I don't have the nostalgia for it. I don't have that personal connection with it. And also, just for the record, in case you don't know Mike, he's not related to WWF superstar Ted the $1 Million Man DiBiase. It's just a nickname.
Oh, right. That
is correct. They had similar beards, yes, and
that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Oh, beard. Hey, is that the $1 Million Man?
Good enough for me. Oh, they did have the hair was similar too. The hair was similar too. Oh, it was like this little mullet thing, especially in the early 90s. Anywho, this is a film from 1988, and it's been judged and watched by millions of people. I was already familiar with the score, so I have to sit this one out. But did you?
Yeah, I saw it too.
Eric, you saw it too?
7 something. I glanced at it.
Okay, it's fine. It's a right on the nose 7.0. Okay. That's what it is. And that's been judged by a fair amount of people, but not as much as you'd think. Not even 100,000. It's only 85,000 ratings, which surprises me. Maybe it's because it's an older movie. I don't know. Or like it's from a different generation.
It kind of is. That was one of my major takeaways from this viewing, is that this movie, as much as our generation might have grown up loving it, it was not a movie intended for us. This was a movie for our parents. This is a movie, I mean, like the irony of like people like now remembering Buddy Hackett for this role, when like it's supposed to be like a big deal that you got Buddy Hackett in this movie, and instead it's what he's remembered for, because who the fuck watches anything or knows anything else about Buddy Hackett, right?
Yeah.
And the movie is just stuffed full. Like Pat McCormick, no one knows who the fuck Pat McCormick is now. It's stuffed full with all these huge television stars and like all these references.
Robert Goulet.
Right, or if there's not people, it's like a Leroy Neiman reference. Like nobody knows.
Courtship of Eddie.
Yeah, right, yeah. Like all these, it's just chock full of references that, like, even today, I'm like, I don't get a lot of these. So if you didn't grow up with it, chances are this is not something that's really gonna speak to you that much. I mean, yeah. Those that are coming behind us, I think.
The Richard Burton reference was the biggest for me. I was always like, what is he babbling about?
Yeah, that's exactly. When I got to the Dick and Liz jokes is when I made that note in my notes. I'm like, yeah, Dick and Liz jokes. Even in '88, that seems a little old.
Yeah, Mary Lou Retton, Lee Majors. Yeah, these are dated things, no doubt about it. Yeah. All right, on Rotten Tomatoes, we always give it to you. We give you the IMDb score, and we swear by it. Then we swear by the.
I swear. Therefore, I forswear.
I didn't know who Dick Burton was when I was a kid, but I used to know that. 71, Dead Heat. This could be the first film where we have a tie on Rotten Tomatoes. 71 apiece, critics and audience. A tie. Who knew? Roger Ebert says it was obviously intended as a comedy, but there's little comic about it, and indeed the movie's overriding emotions seem to be pain and anger.
I was scared.
That's how he's saying it. I was afraid, and I didn't feel comfortable laughing at most of this film. He might be some truth to that breakdown. We'll talk more about that.
Absolutely true.
Let's look. There's a positive review.
Like Scrooge is supposed to be a mean guy or something.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, does it? Not seeing Destin Thompson. There's a limited amount of reviews on this film, anyways. Unfortunately, at least when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes. But let's go with William Thomas of Empire Magazine. You may have heard of it. Murray doing what he does best. If you like that sort of thing, period. Yeah, that's all we got. The Variety said an appallingly unfunny comedy and a vivid illustration of the fact that money can't buy you laughs.
Ooh.
Variety.
Wow.
That is intense.
That's a pretty harsh.
There's a lot of them. That this is not like we said, a 71% critics view, but there's a lot of splats on here. in terms of the reviews worded out. And I just don't agree with any of that shit. But maybe it's a sense of humor thing. Maybe it was a period of time. Bill Murray,
not well reviewed.
It was not well reviewed. But Bill Murray's, some of these reviews came around 2000, and Bill Murray's 90s run is pretty bogus, right? Can we all agree with that? Like,
Man Who Knew Too Little, Larger Than Life. There was some stinkers.
Yeah. So I think where he was at this time, and the fact that he got a lot of run for Lost in Translation in 2002 is like, whoa, look at Bill Murray. What an amazing actor. But fuck that. He was an amazing actor in this film in 1988. This is a really good acting performance by Bill Murray in terms of running a massive spectrum of all types of emotions. It's a story about a guy who struggles and he thinks he's the king of the world and he's insecure, and then he comes to terms. I understand that. But he expresses it so honestly and genuinely. At the end of the movie, I always get very emotional because he gets me to be that way.
Because if you like, when you're viewing someone, like, empathy just kicks in. If you're watching someone who's clearly feeling emotions, and you'll feel them too. And like his that's very raw and real. His throat gets hoarse. He stammers. He stutters. He's falling all over himself. He's not on on cue. Like, he's walking around all over the place. The camera's having trouble following him. Like, he's like a raving mess. And like when it was over, Michael O'Donoghue made fun of him for it, because he was like, "What the fuck was that?" But because it was off the top of his head. By the way, it was the last thing they shot in the film. Which makes sense. And it was very much, spontaneous and genuine, and it comes across. And I think that's why it evokes that emotional response in us, is because he was feeling it sincerely.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Eric? We're talking about the ending scene. If you've obviously, I hope you watch this movie before you watch or listen to our podcast, when he just jumps on the screen and interrupts the whole production of the biggest production of the year, The Christmas Story. Eric, did it get to you?
I used to have this boss who was a giant fucking dickhead asshole. Reminded me a lot of Frank Cross for the 90% of the movie. And on the rare occasions when he was nice and acted differently, I was just creeped out and just weirded out by him. That's kind of how I felt at the end of this. When the turn comes, it just comes off like some sort of weird nervous breakdown to me. I think everyone on the set would be like, what the fuck is Frank doing? Get him out of here. We've worked for months on this. It comes off as cheap and artificial for me. I've always disliked the end of the movie. Sorry.
You take it so literally like that? I think Gary Crafton agrees with you. He says, I'm going to have to watch it again. The only thing I remember is Carol Kane with the toaster. Funny. But I couldn't disagree with you more. I think me and Travis probably agree on the ending, and we're not going to change your mind, so that's fine. But you wanted to focus on Bill Murray because Bill Murray's legend and myth has gone through the roof now, right? 2020, Bill Murray is like a walking god in a sense to a lot of people because of stories about him.
I think a lot of people nowadays are afraid to criticize him. In this, I think he works his best in his quiet scenes. My favorite stuff in this movie is the quiet stuff with him and Karen Allen. The stuff where he's just kind of being loud and obnoxious comes off as just.
Well, his complaint about the movie for years since because he's not a big fan of it. His complaint about the movie was Donner's direction to him was just louder, be louder, get louder, and he was like, "I'm screaming these lines."
I read that. I like my Bill Murray quiet and with a little twinkle in his eye. Instead, this guy's just kind of like a loud, obnoxious jackass. I don't know.
No, I like that about him though. This guy's an elite psycho asshole, and he's lost all touch with reality. He wants to rule the world. Claire says, "Are you still trying to run it?" She's still trying to save the world. He's still trying to run it, and that's what he does. He's become so engrossed in himself, but he is incredibly insecure. So he's acting out in this way, and I never had any problem with it. I love the Bozo Murray in the beginning of this, and through the really 3/4 of this film until he finally is in the coffin screaming, "Ah!"
That's fucking terrifying for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, that was really I just realized that was actually one of the most scariest parts for me.
So that's actually watching it this time is when I kind of I do kind of struggle with this part of the movie a little bit. I'm going to push back against what you're saying, Eric, and also agree with you a little bit. In that in the original, and this movie is all over the place, and they're able to shove in all these jokes and references and cameos because of the foundation of the great story by our boy Charlie Dix. So this guy obviously knew what he was doing with this original story, and the part of the whole thing that terrifies Scrooge in the original is that he sees no one mourns him. In fact, his servants rob him, and they're glad that he's dead. In this, not only is James mourning him, even Wendy's shedding tears. So like really, like it doesn't make a ton of sense for him to have this come to Jesus moment where he's like irrevocably changed, because is he learning that life is brief? Because he's kind of learning that when Bobcat Goldthwait is holding a shotgun to his head anyways. So he doesn't necessarily need to have this like thing. The lesson doesn't really make sense for him to come out changed from that elevator the way that it does. It just doesn't. But as far as his message goes, I love his message. I really do, because his message is so simple and so real. It's not like his message is just, we can just be a little kinder to each other, and we don't have to do it just on Christmas. And that is and he calls it like a miracle. And if you live that, you can have Christmas every day of your life, according to him. But I think he's right. Like it is a time that I love Christmas, and it is a time of the year where it's easier to be nicer, but you have that motivation, you have that excuse, and to have a Christmas movie come at you and say, hey, suspend this feeling throughout all the year, you can do this year round. I think that's great, and I think it's a nice message, and I just love the way the movie ends.
I agree with you. That's why the movie gets to me, is I find myself in this movie a lot, so it obviously touches me in a certain way. It's like, yeah, you can be like this all the way around. You can choose to do this all year. You can choose to change your attitude or try to be more open and friendly and caring and supportive and empathetic to other people. And especially as life hardened me as an adult, I think it rang true more and more to me, and that's probably why it touches me more. Last year, I watched it with Leanne on Christmas Eve, and I cried a lot, and I was like, Jesus, what the hell's wrong with me? And she's like, oh, you're crying. And I'm like, yeah, I do cry. But like, this movie touches me in that way, and it did the same when I watched it at Aaron's, because Aaron Worley, a good friend of the show, I lived with him 2 years before that, and they love watching that movie around Christmas too. And I remember like standing way back. If you ever been to Aaron's house, which you have, Travis, the dining room goes way behind the living room, so you could be way back on the other side of the house and see that massive television. And I remember they're watching it in the living room, and I'm like hiding way back there, like sobbing. I just went up to my room and slept for 12 hours in misery. So, but yeah, it's great. I completely agree with you. And also the fact that Bill Murray was big in the 80s, but there was the break too, right? Like he did Ghostbusters, and apparently it caught him, or it turned him off.
He took a deliberate break for like 4 years. He only like did one cameo appearance, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't spend the whole show talking about Bill Murray. There's a lot of Carol Kane is great in this, like Gary mentioned. I love Carol Kane. Anytime, I love her in License to Drive, which is a movie that Carol Kane does a great job in. Anytime Carol Kane's on a screen, I generally enjoy it. She's fantastic. Karen Allen to me is always blah, so I don't really have a lot to say about it, but she's good in this movie.
Yeah, it's easily my favorite Karen Allen movie. I mean, obviously most folks would probably say Indiana Jones, but in the Last Crusade, or in Raiders of the Lost Ark rather. But for me, it's this one. I love her in this movie. But for me, the real star of the show, besides Bill, is his friend, his real life friend, David Johansen, also known as Buster Poindexter, who plays the ghost of the taxi driving ghost of Christmas Past. Just what a scene stealer. He's so funny in this movie, and like he really didn't act much, I mean, this guy David Johansen, right? Who we can thank for helping to create punk rock. I mean, literally, this guy helps create punk rock.
New York Dolls.
And I'm excited. I guess Martin Scorsese announced that he's working on a documentary about him. So I think that could be real good stuff. I think that he's an underappreciated American hero, contributor to American culture. And he's such a fucking funny weirdo in this movie. Even the only thing he does that really pisses me off every time I watch it, though, is when he snatches the bottle away from Elliot Loudermilk's hand as he going to drink. He steals. Like, Elliot Loudermilk's already having the worst day ever. Like, you don't need to make the day worse for him. Goes to Christmas Past.
Now that's always bothered me about this movie too, especially when I watched it this time. He becomes an alcoholic bum in like 12 hours, like overnight. Everything. He's not just drunk. I know he gets sprayed with water when he's on the side of the road, and everything's not going Elliot Loudermilk's way, but it's not a big deal. But
Also,
totally
shooting up your work for laughs doesn't really work anymore.
Again.
Yeah. I mean, things have changed. Right?
As you said.
Things have
But
changed.
I completely agree with that. But Johansson is a badass in this movie. And
Oh, yeah.
he's arguing with Frank because he's trying to tell him about the things he did as a child.
It's the homecoming episode of Little House, yeah.
Cupid's arrow right between the eyes.
You're so full of it, Frank. You are so full of it. Yeah, I agree with you, Travis. He really is like this kind of like he's like this little underground kind of earmark of so many pop culture references. What was more of an ironic thing that anybody ever did than doing Hot, Hot, Hot when he was a punk rock? It was completely just a middle finger.
He got sued by Tom Waits for stealing his shtick.
He did.
Really?
Yeah. Which that's a little ironic, Tom, but I mean, I love that. But...
He also sued Chester Cheetah for the same thing, so not Tom's best decade. Yeah, he did.
By the way, Tom Waits was in Ironweed, and that was funny.
Fucking great, isn't it?
Really funny.
A lot of people give Carol Kane, the whole character, a lot of shit for being like just weird and bizarre, but that's one part I've always really liked. And I mean, I completely understand that she's beating the shit out of him because the truth is painful, and it can hurt to look at yourself and see your flaws, and anyone that points them out can feel like this enemy. So I've always liked that chunk.
She fucked up his lip for real, I guess. It stopped filming
it off.
She tore that little thing. Yeah, she pulled it. So, but it was there when they agreed to it to like beat the hell out of him. So
that's true. Yeah,
comes across on camera.
This is Cinema 9 Podcast. We're talking about Scrooge in a very real way. That's right. If you love Scrooge, email the show, cinema9pod@mail.com, and you can DM us on any of the social media platforms. Our Facebook page is great, by the way. You could send us a comment on this. You can watch the live stream after the fact. And as we dive into Scrooge further, Richard Donner deserves recognition. I love Richard Donner. I'm a big Richard Donner fan. He does so many. He has done.
He can do
he's
anything.
Not Buster Poindexter. He's not David Johansen, Travis, but he is a guy who has done so many great films, and I think he deserves more credit as like a classic. Not this generation, but the previous generation director. He should be mentioned in like a top 10. I really think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, aside from his early stuff with the he directed my favorite Twilight episodes, including Bill Shatner Airplane one. But just start rattling them off right now. The Goonies Superman was a fucking game changer in 1979.
The Donner Cut. I have the sequel of the Donner Cut, by the way, which they finally released.
I'd like to give out some love also to the cinematographer Michael Chapman. He did he did Taxi Driver. He did Raging Bull. And then
he's the guy who died. We talked about him on episodes a while back. What episode? We mentioned him. Okay, yeah.
So he must have gotten along well with Bill because after doing this, the next year he did Ghostbusters 2, and then the year after that he did Quick Change. So he had like a 3-year role in a row doing movies with him. Did The Fugitive as well.
God, yeah. Do we know why Conrad Hall was fired as the original cinematographer?
Conrad Hall was fired from Scrooge.
Fire Conrad Hall.
He
was let go.
Astonishing. I can only assume that he was being hard to work with.
Butting heads, yeah.
Because I cannot think of a better cinematographer in history.
Fired. How do you fire Conrad Hall?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, by the way, Michael Chapman was the cinematographer on Evolution, one of my favorite comedies. By the way,
yes, he was.
Yeah, Michael Chapman deserves a lot of credit. And by the way, people love Carol Kane. I guess she's in a movie called Hunters. I've never seen it. We'll have to check that one out, Gary. Not familiar with Hunters. But Carol Kane didn't want to be violent, but she did it anyways and ended up working out really, really well. Yeah. Yes. Richard Donner is a legend. I think he deserves credit for that. I just want people to know that I'm a huge Donner fan. I think the Lethal Weapon series, I know people make fun of them, but they're awesome. They're like, they're pop culture pornocopia. There's just so much fun going on in those stupid ass movies. The writing's great. Yeah.
Can we settle something though while we're doing this show?
Settle it.
Is it sea urchins or street urchins? What does he say?
I always thought.
Clear as day, the man says sea urchins. Clear as day. Then everyone's like, no, he said street urchins. And Glover's like, oh, okay, you got me, buddy.
I know what he meant, yeah, but I think he said sea urchins. I would have to agree with that, yeah. I don't think there's really a debate. The audio, I need to isolate the audio. I'm sure on YouTube somebody can do that for us.
Playback.
But, hey, Scrooged is a great movie, not for Christmas. It's funny as hell. Is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy too? Do you guys define it in different ways? Because Scrooge has a message to me that is beyond Christmas. Like I think you were saying, Travis. I just think people, they just misidentify certain things, like somebody being a yuppie or looking at this from a different perspective of the cynicism of television. And that's one of the things about this movie I really dig a lot. How hardcore it goes. I think the opening is hilarious, but it's also not that far off. Now it's kind of like amateur hour to me. It looks kind of cheesy 30 years later.
Right.
I mean,
also quick note, Frank Cross, younger than the three of us.
At that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah. Yeah, Bill
Like-
Murray was younger than us when he recorded this movie.
This kind of always confused me. Like the promos in the beginning, the night the reindeer died, and that's are those like his ideas, or is that their actual programming already?
That's their actual programming.
I like how they say, it's the 80s, like the Cold War's on. We got Bush just elected. Like it's time to be like, a little bit more acerbic in their culture. Like I always didn't understand like why anyone would watch like the Scrooge special that they're showing. It seems like they would crave like the dark, sardonic stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, a Scrooge!" Like
that's why you got to make them too terrified to miss it, so scared.
Yeah. But what about
I also love that they don't call it like the whole. They're sinking like $40 million into this, and for one, we're not going to get any armed security, and for two, we're going to call it not A Christmas Carol. We're going to call it just Charles Dickens' immortal classic, Scrooge. We're gonna get the name wrong because they clearly get the name wrong. So funny.
We have to talk about Alfred Woodard.
Yeah,
Grace. She is the conscience of this asshole. Yeah. And she has the son who's the Tiny Tim, representation, who's awesome brutal stuff. Was that ever dragging for you guys at all? Like, I don't really care about this as much. Because it didn't for me. I thought it was just enough of it. Like, you get the scene of them decorating him as the Christmas tree at home, and they're all having fun with him, but they still love him, but he gets a little bit taken advantage of because he doesn't talk.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant move to make him instead of having trouble with his leg, they make him unable to speak. Since you're obviously waiting for that iconic line through the whole movie, and that it's going to be him that says it. You're like, I was 8 when I saw it, but whatever. But still, like I imagine if you came in for the first time, you would know that that's coming. But it still works. Like it works.
And he's impacted by urban violence too. Like it's not, it makes sense what's happening to him and the world he's living in. And even though his mother's a secretary, she probably doesn't make dick because he's such an asshole too.
Right. He's poverty and trauma.
Right. Exactly. So there's actually more substance. The more you dig around in this movie, I find it to be more believable and like substantial. And the whole fact that she has to deal with this asshole every day with bath towel, VHS, bath towel. I love that whole line. Oh, these are all mostly towels. That's funny.
I laugh. But like one of my other issues with Frank Cross is like we laugh every time he like is mean or horrible to people. Like for Scrooge to work, my Scrooge, you have to just constantly hate him. Like I just see him as a clown, and I just think it's funny when he's being mean. I don't know, the whole movie, if you couldn't tell by now, just doesn't. It's too hostile and nasty for me. It just really doesn't work that well for me.
Well, it's very much, as we've already made clear, it's very, very dated. It's very much of its time. And movies in the 80s, so remember the acid rain sequence? Remember, like, acid rain was a thing that people worried about in the 80s. It's not a thing anyone needed to worry about, but it was a trend. Just like armed gunmen showing up all dressed in black in any given situation and shooting things up was just a trend. Like it was in movies, like every movie, like here's a squadron showing up at a school, at a workplace, at a Santa's workshop, whatever. And like a lot of this stuff is just, it didn't daunt me at the time because again, like I'm a child of that age. So like, you guys are too, but like, I think that my parents were maybe a little more cavalier about what I was consuming entertainment wise.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair to say.
So if is it a little mean and nasty? Well, yeah, it's a 1988 depiction. It's a Scrooge movie from 1988. But by the same token, I've watched almost every other iteration of this story, and there's a train coming.
Yeah.
I watched every iteration of this story, and the only ones, in my opinion, that rival it are the George C. Scott one and the Muppets Christmas Carol, and these are the best versions in my opinion.
I haven't watched George C. Scott one. I love that.
It's so good. And I mean, if I can quickly compare the two, not that you can really, because this is clearly a black comedy. And when you got the writers from the National Lampoon, you're going to have it be 90% sardonic and dark.
Although they said only 40% of their script showed up in the movie.
Yeah, I believe that.
God, way worse, yeah.
I mean, the George C. Scott version, that's the thing I don't really like about the Calvin character here, because the change from Scrooge, for me, comes from when he sees this little boy die, and knowing that Dickens wrote it to point out the significance of child poverty, to have all of this gross, ugly, horrible stuff happen in Scrooge, and yet they don't want to have the kid die, and for Scrooge to see the futility of life and the life of this little boy is just beyond me. That's why he doesn't talk. It's like, who cares?
But it was what do you mean, who cares? Yeah. He spent his life he went to a loony bin. What do you mean?
I don't see that happen. Okay, that's why the end is a problem for me too. You're going to send him to a loony bin because he's a mute?
Well, that's yes.
Because he won't talk.
This happens?
Yes,
he's an adult.
Look, man, I mean, I don't want to get up on too high a high horse here, but trauma can do things to people that it's just unfathomable. And the way that people can respond to that, if they don't understand what's happening, if they don't understand that there's not a chemical thing that can be corrected, they will think that you are insane and treat you like you're insane. And that's extremely realistic and tragic possible end for Calvin. And I think and more realistic get to his given situation as well. Like, he's not going to get TB, right? Like,
yeah, he's been given a bogus situation. If he doesn't change, if this is a future that is, it's one possible future. It's not everything too. That's another thing. But this is certainly one plausible future for this child. And he becomes an adult who he won't function. He can't function. He's traumatized so greatly. It seems to make sense to me. And the fact that Claire becomes this super bitch, elitist, rich woman. Thanks a lot, Lumpy. I mean, and she's got a tear streaming down her face. It makes sense. This is one plausible future. So I buy into it. He's being shown what can happen, and he's starting to buy in more and more, because you have to add all the other experiences that he was just shown prior to that as well. It didn't just happen in a vacuum here at this moment. It all piles on, and that's the story in the end, right? It all adds up, and finally Scrooge says, "You know what? This is awful. I can't live like this. This is ridiculous."
The one thing all men fear the most, the ghost of Christmas future.
That's right, man. Excuse me.
We're gonna get called.
Great Murray right there when he doesn't even say anything. I also want to give shout out to Mr. Forsythe as Lou Hayworth, dude.
Really good.
Really good. The guys who made his arm shit and rip off like that, it still
looks awesome.
It does. It looks really. I mean, it looks lame when he goes through the window. He's clearly not over out there, but
whatever.
The golf ball coming out of his head, and when he gets shot up, bang, bang, bang.
How am I honest, take it easy on the McCarthy.
That is a great line.
I mean, I'll be remiss if I don't say it. It's clearly going to be a rough night for me. But this, like, the most traumatizing, scary thing that might change him the most is falling out of like a fucking 50-story window. Right off the bat from the first ghost, and that really doesn't have an effect on Frank. He wakes up the next morning, just calls Claire. He's like, "Oh well."
He was poisoned by Russian vodka.
Poisoned by Chernobyl.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. Lou Hayward as the boss, the captain of industry. I love that bit, and actually, some of my most quotable lines are from that actual early scene.
I agree. You're the man who invented the miniseries.
It's great. There's so many great. Everybody plays a role, does a great job in this film, and as we start to wrap it up, I where I stand. Travis already said where he stood. We can make some final commentaries. Go ahead, Travis. Give us some final.
Robert Mitchum didn't want to do this movie. He got pulled into it by the charm of Bill Murray, and again, like, it's another one that, like, I'm a big Mitchum fan. I go all the way back to the Night of the Hunter, but I mean, like, this is one that he's partly remembered for. I mean, like, it's pretty classic, pretty funny stuff. I mean, and it's just, I mean, again, like, there's just so many iconic little performances from these, like, major people. Just Miles Davis just hanging out with Paul Schaefer and Larry Carlton and David Sanborn, starving musicians, just there just for like a moment. There you go. This whole movie it's just chock full of this stuff, and some of the references, like I'm the Woodstock baby. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I know what Woodstock is, but why are you kissing? I don't get the reference, and so there is things about it that are okay, like dated, but in terms of rewatchability, man, I can't think of a lot of movies that I've watched more. When I started this movie last night and it comes on, I'm just like, I feel like I'm going home. Like, it's just like, it's ridiculous, but I've seen this movie so I cannot exaggerate. I mean, I've seen it so many times. That opening sequence is just, it's like a lullaby. So yeah, it holds up.
Yep, it holds up. There's no doubt about it, man. All the Murray brothers get to pop in this movie too, and
even Joel.
Joel.
Which, by the way, I wonder if this is when him and Bobcat Goldthwait hooked up, because he went on later to star in not World's Greatest Dad,
the one shoot 'em up thing.
God Bless America.
Yes, yeah. God Bless America,
which is a hell of a movie. Yeah,
it is. That's Joel, not Andy.
That was Joel Murray. Yeah. Okay. He plays a guest and along with Mitch Glazer, co-writer, who looks like a young George Clooney at the whole house party of younger brother James Cross.
Oh, yeah. And then Brian Doyle plays his father in the flashback,
right, which is perfect casting.
Scene.
You go in the store and you buy it, choo.
Such a sweet scene, though.
Oh yeah,
it is tender. It's funny, and then it's tender. That's why this movie holds up, because it does a great balance of being substantial to me, but being funny too. Quotable lines. I mean, we didn't even mention what's his face, John Glover as Bryce Cummings.
Oh fuck yeah, man!
L.A. Slimeball.
Hey, call me on the coast, babe.
Lamp Industries.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Did you want to call dinner?
He's so predatory. It's great.
He's perfect. Yeah, he's such a slime ball in a perfect way. Yeah, 80 slime ball to the T with his fucking, what are those California rolls? Anyways, everybody plays a great part.
No dairy in that, right?
Yeah, the JB Farr's in this movie. Even it's just there's so many people because they're doing a television show within a movie, and I think of it like Travis thinks of it too. It's part of my life. So even if it sucked. It wouldn't suck though, because I wouldn't like it. I don't think, but I guess anything's possible. But it's a part of my existence. It's part of the yearly tradition of Christmas. But I don't watch it like Travis watched. Like, I probably do keep it for like Christmas now mainly. I don't watch it a lot beyond that. But I just don't see how you can go wrong here. And if we can spread the word on this film to people now, because it is old. It's very old now and dated, like you said. And a guy like Gary saying, "Hey, I just ordered Scrooged on Amazon." He's never seen it before. So
wow, holy shit!
That's why we do this show, because we bring movies back from a certain period. If you haven't seen it, or because we've seen movies that surprise each one of us every week, right? It's like, oh shit, you never saw that, So you never know what people have seen either, and that's why, in the spirit of the season and the holidays, this movie holds up for many, many reasons that we just discussed.
That's
all right. That's the show. That's
it, though. Guys?
All right,
that's it. You sure?
Let's go on to the next thing.
Whoa! Hold on. Excuse me. I'm not going to bring you guys down. Like
you can't bring us down. I mean, it's done.
I know.
Give us a helping hand. Not even a Christmas song. The movie made it a Christmas song. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
I never knew that was Al Green. I always thought that was like
Lennox,
Patti LaBelle, and I'm like, oh, that's Al Green. I'm gonna let it slide by for me with it holds up, because it's entertaining any way you slice it. I mean, the movie is like an amusement park ride of grotesque, macabre characters, and there's sweetness and there's tenderness. I have big story issues, and I love the source material so much that it's hard for me to see through some of the stuff that they did with this contemporary adaptation. The Karen Allen character for me is like, there's no challenge there. She just keeps coming back no matter how much he trashes her. There's no conflict there. There's nothing he has to fight for. He just calls her at the end. She's like, oh yeah, I'll be back, even though you've been treating me like shit for the past 30 years. But I mean, the makeup's fucking awesome. Bill Murray puts in a fun performance, and what else can you say? Nothing I was gonna say, and he doesn't even like the movie, but nothing I say is gonna change people's minds. But there you go. I had fun with it.
Nothing you're going to say is going to change people's minds. Okay, then just to say the truth, then it doesn't hold up for you. It's fine. You don't need to sleep tonight.
I have to go on the record. I think someone yelled at me last week because I didn't say it. So
I was entertained, and I sat through it twice, and I wasn't bored. I just had some narrative issues, but I'll say it holds up.
All right.
Well, there you have it.
Elfman crank up to like fucking 20.
You know, I thought you were Richard Pryor.
Going too far?
And these guys are really trying. All right, so that's it. Cinema 9 Podcast has presented you with Scrooged, a top-notch film that we enjoyed. And if you love the holidays, settle in. You never seen it? Check it out. If you have seen it, watch it again. I'm sure you will. Yeah, Matt Williams.
Seen it while you're listening right now. That's
to learn, maybe expand your mind. You never know. Matt Williams, who was on the show on our Back to the Future episode, said that this is a Christmas Eve tradition every year as well. So clearly, a lot of people have this as a routine in their lives.
VCR, great gift in 2020.
Well, I mean, vinyl came back. I'm sure we'll go back to VHS soon in the 20s. Anywho, check us out online. Give us that holiday gift of a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
Amazing.
And it would be really lovely. We appreciate you guys.
Change our life. Sorry, we're just getting hyperbole.
Please, Marty! I just can't stop doing Martin all week long around the house. We did sneakers last week. If you guys missed it, go back and check that out. Anywho, I got to pick a movie for next week's episode, which will go back to being on Thursday, I think. Oh, that's New Year's Eve.
Greenberg.
We're not doing anything, so who cares? Just say Greenberg. Eric passed up Greenberg this week, by the way.
You know you're going to say Greenberg. Come on, out with
I'm not going to say Greenberg. We did a bomb back. Come on, there's so many other things going on. And it's also the holiday season. So I'm really torn between these two movies. I think one would be too obvious.
New Year's Day. Or New Year's Eve.
200 cigarettes? Yeah. You know,
24-hour party people.
I would love to do that movie. But the thing about the movie I wanted to choose is I just don't know if it's too obvious now. But this is the risk you take in choosing a film because you never know what people are going to think. And I don't know how often I'll get a chance to do this. So I think we should do it. This is a good time of year. Let's do Just Friends. I want to do it. I want to see what people think of it. 2005 comedy.
Doing another Christmas movie after Christmas? All right.
It's still Friends, isn't it? It's still the season. I'm not going to get another chance. I'll have to wait a whole year. So
this is true.
One more Christmas. It's not just a Christmas movie, but it is Christmas
That's
themed.
Friends.
Oh man,
we're doing it.
I'll do it again. All right.
Oh, you did? Shit.
Yeah, that's all right.
Friends.
Okay. I'll do it again.
Can I change my mind, or is it too late?
Yeah, you can. You can. I mean, the show's not over
if you want to. It's up to you. But I don't mind watching it again.
Oh, I can change my mind?
You can change your mind. The show's not over. It's up to you.
Okay,
but
great. Then I'm going to change my mind.
This will be a first. Should we do this?
Yeah, you guys said I could do it, so I'm changing my mind. I'm going with the other option then. We are going to do, ladies and gentlemen, Legends of the Fall. 1994 film starring Brad Pitt and many other people.
Oh, man. Tristan!
I haven't seen this since it was new. So
yay!
You are not down.
I haven't seen it in a minute. This used to be, big deal back in the day in the 90s.
Wow.
We had on VHS every day after school. So, all right.
I will watch Just Friends and get back to you in appreciation of your shot there.
I'm just going to not watch it, and then we'll watch it next year.
That is also
Legends of the Fall. I'm going to talk Ed Zwick. He was a big, heavy hitter in the 90s, man. What happened?
He had his time. Didn't he do that other Clint Eastwood, Meryl Streep movie? Was that him?
I think that was Clint Eastwood.
Madison County?
That was Eastwood? Never mind. No.
Yeah. He did
what did he do?
Siege.
Glory. So that's classic.
Oh, Glory. Yeah, that's a big one.
I also did Love and Other Drugs in 2010 with Gyllenhaal and Hathaway. That was a Zwick film. And he also did that movie with Matt Damon about the Great Wall. So that was actually him, I believe. Which is fun.
Right.
Anywho, check us out next week. We're Legends of the Fall. Long-haired, sexy Brad Pitt.
Legends of the Fall.
So
80 Quinn's beautiful blue eyes.
Yeah, and our buddy from Suicide Kings, Henry Thomas, is in this movie too.
All right.
Good to see him again. All right, check us out. We'll be back next week. I don't know if we're doing the show on Thursday or Wednesday next week or whatever because it's New Year's Eve. I'm not doing anything for New Year's Eve. No one's doing anything, so why not? Let's celebrate. Oh, you already got played?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Wow. Are you trying to keep it a secret? Okay, see how it is. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Happy holidays.